Hello. So I am back again because I was just shuffling my deck, and as always, Death and Rebirth continues to come out. Um, I feel like Spirit at this point is just kind of like pounding into my head, like, bitch, this is what you're supposed to be talking about. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just gonna keep talking about it until I get direction on where to go next. Um, I am. Whew, I was going to talk about. I was going to start building up Awakening Ikaya, and I was going to start tweeting and just trying to create something, get a message going. And I was thinking about creativity and how I think that creativity is going to be what saves us all. Saves us as in just leads us into a better experience of the death state and a better experience of rebirth rather than the more traumatizing version, which would be what would happen if we don't get on track. So, anyways, I say this because creativity and following your dreams, following your passions, operating from your soul space, your heart space, is the closest that we can get to um, union with the divine. And if you're not somebody who is that form of spiritual, then the closest you can get to fulfilling a purpose that is meaningful for you and also gives back to others. It is the simplest way that we can all contribute to saving the world, saving the universe from, not from death, because death is inevitable, but from suffering that's unnecessary. Um, and yeah, so I am making this video because, yeah, the death card came out, been following me everywhere I go. I've been talking about it for months. I feel like a broken record. And I'm realizing, oh, I think that that's just what I'm meant to do. I think I'm just meant to keep reiterating what I'm saying in just different ways. Just continue to make videos about death in a way that is not terrifying for people. And yeah, along with death, we had the Tower, we had Justice, Nine of Cups, Queen of Wands. When I was clarifying the death card, we got the future and time. So, and then on top of that, we got courage, manifestation, listen deeply. I don't know about you, but I am, as always, tired. But more than anything, I'm kind of just looking around and I'm like, what is going on? What is about to happen, I guess, really. We are in a really confusing time. We have the war happening in Ukraine, and I don't even know, there's nothing new that I can say that people haven't already said. And then we have a lot of people having their own spiritual journeys right now and waking up, and we have that whole quitting your job revolution thing that's happening, and there's a lot happening. Um, and there's a lot of energy around um, being so tired to the point where you just have to start following your dreams. Where it's like following your dreams is a means of survival at this point. That's the point that we're at in human history, in the history of the earth, history of the universe. You know, we're getting desperate, and it's because a lot of us are worn out and burned out and very lonely and very tired, and we all want to find a way to save the world, save each other, save humanity, uplift each other, but we're also very tired. And so the answer that I have is the thing that you can do to contribute to getting us on track is following your dreams and creating. Everybody is creative. everybody is a creator. Everybody has creativity. It is just a part of being alive. If you are alive, you are a creator. Creativity is literally like 99% of your existence. So much of who you are is because of creativity. It's just innate to any and everything and any and everyone. And creativity is one of the most pure forms of love. It's one of the most pure expressions of love and joy and fulfillment. And it is an energy that has been deprived, that many of us have been deprived of. Many of us have been told that we're not artists. I mean, look at the way that the word artist is even used in today's world. So many of us feel shame about calling ourselves artists. You know, it's either subscribed to very specific group of people who are already highly successful and whose creation is validated by the general population as art and as significant and as important, or it is like people who do visual art and those are the artists, or it's, you know, musicians who are famous and all of that. But everybody else is just whatever, or you're a content creator. Content, which is so, you know, if you like that word, then you like that word. But I mean, I was talking about this with my sister. My sister was bringing up a really great point, Ayanda. She was like, content is such a minimizing and, honestly, in my opinion, and I think she was saying too, like a dehumanizing for the artist and for the artist within all of us. It's what we create is not art, just content. You know, it's very technological, very corporate, very cold, and it takes the life out of what art is, which is literally the essence of being. It's the life, it's life force energy, it's creativity, it's creation, it's the existence of something. It's bringing something into being. It is birthing. It is maternal. It's divine feminine. It's beautiful. It's incredible, and it's the merging of both divine feminine and divine masculine. And that's why it's one of the most pure forms of light work that you can do, or like liberating action that you can do is to create, because it's just like a big like fuck you to the system, because it's like, yeah, I'm working a 9 to 5 or longer hours. Yeah, I'm like breaking my back and I can't afford rent and I can't afford to eat anything that's good for my body and I'm dying inside and I'm depressed. But you can't take away my ability to create just for the sake of creating. You can't take away my dreams. You can't take away what is joyful to me, what is meaningful to me, what allows me to be a part of the working of the universe, co-creation with the universe. You can't take away my self-expression. That's why art is so important. That's why art is so significant. And there's art in everything. There is creation and creativity in anything. You know, it's not just people who like to sing and dance and draw. It's also the scientists. It's also the sports fans, the fantasy sports people. It's the, I don't know, who else? The math people. It's everybody. Everybody has creativity. And the point is we need to be following our dreams. We need to be following our dreams, and we need to be stepping into our creative energy, because at this point it is literally for survival. It is one of the simplest ways that we can all come together and uplift each other and protect our energy right now, is by creating, and sharing your work, sharing your artwork, share your creations, share your perspectives, your opinions, make YouTube videos, make an Instagram account and post pictures of whatever, and, you know, tweet, make a Twitter account and do things on there, make a Facebook group and do things on, like, we need to just be creating. We just need to be making things and building things, and not things that are, it doesn't need to be for profit. It doesn't need to have some like big social meaning. It doesn't need any of that. It just needs to be because you wanted to do it and you did it, and it was just something that you really enjoyed. We really need to be like steeping ourselves in pleasure and joy right now. And it's so ridiculous because it's seen as like a luxury and a privilege to enjoy pleasure and to live a life that involves rest and peace and creation in a way that is not just for profit and capitalism. But it makes me think of that Mitski song, Working for the Knife. How's it go? I cry at the start of every movie. I guess it's because I wish I was making things too, but I'm working for the knife. Like, we all know it. We're all experiencing it right now. We all are within the frames of capitalism or whatever other systems you're in. Either way, it's fucked, and nobody's having a good time. Not even the rich people. The rich people aren't having fun. Everybody's in therapy, and not that therapy is only for when you're in a bad place, but a lot of us are only in therapy right now because we're in a bad place. We're not at the point in society where people are just like, just going to therapy just cause. Like, most of us are traumatized. Like, I mean, there's some people who are going because, just cause, and that's great. We need to just be going just to talk about our feelings and exploring things. But a lot of us aren't at that place. A lot of us are going because we're traumatized. And we're all very tired. We're all exhausted, and we all have dreams, but we don't feel like we have a right to follow them. But we're realizing now that we are at this place where there's almost no other option. Like, we are understanding that rest and rejuvenation and embracing, endings and changings and transformations and stepping into your power and saying no, the power of no, fuck yes, the power of no, saying no to the system, saying no to your job, saying no to the corporate world when it's detrimental to your health, and saying no to, all of these double standards within the artistic world and all of these, rules and regulations and all this bullshit, saying no and just deciding that you're going to start living your life on your own terms and that that's actually possible. It's not as far away as it seems. We see these videos of people living out their dreams and moving to different places, and we're like, oh, that's just like, that's for them, and I can watch from a distance, but that can never be for me. No, it's for you too. It's for everybody. We all need to be doing it. It's like, if you're here on Earth right now, you chose to come here. Your soul chose to come here because you knew that either there was something that you could gain from this experience being on Earth, or there's something that you wanted to bring. There is something that you wanted to contribute. This was a very harrowing time to come to planet Earth. It's not for the small, and not small in a demeaning way, but it's not for the people who. It's not looking, if you're in for like a luxury ride, I'm not quite sure why you would come to Earth right now. You know what I'm saying? It's not easy. So if you're here, it's because, first of all, you're a badass. You're badass. If you've been on Earth, honestly, at all, at like any time period, you're out, you're one of those girls. And I'm very like proud to be here with you because holy. But the point is that, you're here because you have something to bring. You have dreams, you have ambitions, you have joys and pleasures that you can share with others and encourage others to share their own. And then we can create communities just based on pleasure and joy and excitement and art and creativity. And that is an energy that will uplift us all and bring us out of this like working man, devastating, depressing state that is leading us into a world of disconnection and trauma just for the sake of more trauma and suffering, not for the sake of actually learning lessons and then, applying those and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, like people are just out here being traumatized for no reason. And it's creating these cycles of generational patterns where people are in toxic situations and people are unhappy and people don't know anything about themselves and don't know how to get to a point where they can understand themselves. And we are here right now on Earth to stop these patterns so that we can look at the bigger picture, which is looking at what's happening to Earth right now, looking at what's happening to our home and being like, holy fuck, okay, we're going into a death state. It's inevitable at this point. Climate change is not, like, we're not turning the ship around. So we're going through, but how do we want to go through it? Do we want to go through it together? Do we want to go through it in a way where we are supporting each other and we are protecting each other, we are caring for each other, nurturing each other, uplifting each other, so that the experience isn't isolating and making us all just want to die, and not, you know, not encouraging for the next few generations that will be inevitably going through this as well, and having to deal with what the other side looks like once we do come out of that death state and into the rebirth state, and dealing with the world post climate change. You know what I mean? Like, we have to think the long game, because at this point we're already in it, and we are all individuals. So it is too, it's too much to be like, okay, how can we all individually stop climate change? Right now, we have to think about it on an energetic level, because Earth is a highly energetic space. We are consistently interacting with energy. It's everywhere you go. We all feel it all the time. That's why a lot of us are struggling with our mental health, because we're all interacting with these energies and we're all feeling it. And it's not just the energy of other human beings and other creatures and animals. It's also the energy of material things. It's also the energy of plants. It's the energy of the earth. It's the energy of thoughts. It's the energy of technology. It's the energy of everything. Everything has energy. Everything is alive. Everything has a soul. Everything is interacting with each other. We need to just like accept that, because once we can accept that, then we can look at our space and be like, oh, okay, now that I'm back in my body and I'm not disassociating anymore, I understand what's happening around me. I understand that these things make me feel this way because this has a certain energy to it. Okay, so what do I want this relationship to look like? Do I even want this relationship? No? Okay, well then now it's time to move on, and how can I move this to this? Like, we need to start, actually engaging with our environment. And I can imagine that the plants and the creatures and the shits, all of these things are like, bitch, like, yeah, we've been trying to talk to you. We've been trying to be like, look at what's happening. Because we are not, human beings are not the only conscious beings. Our consciousness looks different from others, and it's more obvious. It's more obvious for us. And so we're like, we're conscious and we're out here ruling the world. But no, like, everything else is alive as well and sending us messages and speaking to us as well. I don't know if this is just for me, but when I'm high, I can see that everything is alive. It's the same way when people take psychedelics and they're like, this thing was moving. Yeah. It's like the same thing when they're like, the tree was speaking to me. Yeah. But like, it's not just the trees. It's also like your fucking water bottle. It's also like oracle cards and tarot cards. That's why people are able to read them. It's stones, it's crystals, it's everything. But it's also just the piece of paper. It's the piece of plastic. It's the computer. Everything is speaking to you. You're engaging with everything all the time, whether you want to admit it or not, whether you are talking to it in a way that you register as communication or not. That doesn't take away from the fact that you're engaging with it. And that's why it's really important that we become more present and more in tune with our surroundings and with our environments. That, for number one, we are creating home spaces that are creating a space of peace for us, and creating an environment where we can feel safe and we can feel able to, where we want to be present. We need to have spaces where we want to be present, because we're kind of coming into a stage right now where it's easier to become disconnected. We're already in it with social media, and there's nothing wrong with social media inherently. It's just the way that we're using it right now, that a lot of people are using it right now, because a lot of us are traumatized and alone without support. And so we're using social media in like an escapism way. And it's me too. We're all doing it. So there's no shame around it. It just is what it is. It's unfortunate though, because we have children now who are coming into a world where they didn't get to experience what life was like without social media. So there's nothing to compare it to. And we haven't gotten to the point where we're creating support systems that teach them how to use this properly and teach them about the effects. And so you're just kind of throwing them into the lion's den and being like, here, like, have fun. And it's a lot. So that's something to think about, but that's a lot. So, but the point is that a lot of what we're doing right now is escapism, especially with technology, and that's why I think that we really need to be present. Because when we can be present, then we can still engage with technology. We can still engage with social media, engage with material things. There's nothing wrong with material things. Everything serves a purpose, and everything is important. Plastic is important and serves a huge purpose. It's just the way that we use it when we're not consciously, when we're not being intentional, and when we're not being self-aware, and when we're being selfish and greedy and operating as if this planet and this world, this universe is just, our little oyster and like fuck everybody else. Like, no, that's just not the way things work. We are a community. It is not everybody for themselves, whether you would like to think that or not. It's just not. You do have a responsibility to make sure that the people around you are okay. You do have a responsibility to take care of your environment. It's like, you can act like you don't, but you do. And you choosing not to live up to that responsibility is your choice. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it is your responsibility. Like, you're not just like off the hook. So, yeah. But anyways, sorry. I feel like because I don't know. I feel like I've said this so many times, but I guess spirit is just like, keep saying it. So I'm just going to keep saying it and we'll see what happens. But I'm just as scared and just as tired and exhausted as everybody else. I don't really know what's going on. I'm just like, I came to Earth, and I wasn't thinking about it in this way where I was like Earth beings and star seeds and spirituality. I was just living. And then this past year, I guess I just woke up, and honestly, I had one day where I was living downtown and I felt something tap my shoulder. I'm almost positive that that was me waking up. I don't know. Anyways, that's a side story. But the point is, I didn't start thinking about things in this very specific way until like last year, until like a few months ago, as I've been going through this whole process. And now that I'm in this thought process, it's just not leaving me. So I'm just going to keep talking about it because this is what I can do to try and contribute, as well as my little healing stuff, my healing sanctuaries, which I'm really excited about. I'm optimistic. I'm very hopeful for Earth, and I'm very hopeful for all of us. I think that things will be okay because I can't really imagine it not being okay. But I'm scared too, and I'm tired too, and I get it when people are just like, I don't want to deal with this. I get it when people just want to like completely disengage, but you can't. You really, really can't. Like, I know we all feel like we have the right to just kind of do whatever we want to do because, we didn't ask to be born, and we didn't create this world. We didn't create this, we didn't start climate change and all these things, but that is the unfair thing about being alive, Sometimes the things that you have to deal with aren't your responsibility, but it's still your responsibility. That's the part of being that's, one of the things that comes with being in a community. Sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do, or that you don't feel like you should have to do, because it's just a part of maintaining the space and protecting each other and ensuring that everything will be okay. It's your responsibility. And it's hard. And so I get it. I mean, I'm looking at the world around us, and I haven't even been able to talk about or really understand what's going on in Ukraine. It just feels like another day. It just feels like, here's another traumatizing thing that's happening halfway across the world that we're all feeling. And with, the news outlets and media, it's even worse because it's like the fear, and then it's also the guilt, and then it's also everybody on Twitter having their own opinions and making you feel like shit, and it's just like, it's just so much, and it's just like, donate, and you want to donate, but you don't have money, and then you want to go and support in a protest and things like that, and it's just like, but you're tired, and it's just like, it's a lot, so I get it. And then Ukraine isn't the only thing that's happening. There's all these things happening. Whatever happened to Yemen. What was happening, like we were talking about Yemen last year, there was a humanity crisis, people were starving, and now and it'll come back, I'm sure, this year, sometime this year or next year. Yemen happens every year. Like that starts to trend every single year. I remember we were having these conversations in like high school about Yemen and the crisis that was happening there. So everything is cyclical, and it's just so much to be dealing with. And this is why I'm saying that one of the most incredible things that you can do for yourself right now and for the world around you and the people, the things, everything around you is working on your energy and using your energy in a way that is encouraging joy and fulfillment and pleasure, because we are in an energetic time. Energy is everything. Energy is being put into everything, and we don't always feel like we have control over the energy that we're experiencing. A lot of us are empaths, whether by choice or not. I'd actually prefer not to be an empath. I'd actually love to not be one. I'd love to not be one, because the lack of boundaries and the just constant taking on of how everybody else is feeling, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It's traumatizing. You never know what you're feeling or if it's somebody else's feelings. It's like, it's a lot. So there's nothing cute about being an empath. But a lot of human beings are at this point. I really feel like it is just kind of part of the game. You just come here and you are one, because there's so much energy that you're always feeling. And so much of the energy right now is just kind of in limbo. It's like it is what you make it, or it sucks, because it's being controlled by people in power who are so disconnected that they are not thinking about the fact that we are all real people, that we are all real human beings, that this is a real thing with energy itself, that everything out here is actually existing. We're not just like little pawns in like a video game. I know that everybody says that this is a simulation, and yes, it is a simulation, but it's also very real. Like, just because something's a simulation doesn't mean it doesn't matter and it's not significant. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but yeah, this is a game, I guess, but you're going to reincarnate. And if you're back here on Earth and you didn't deal with any of your trauma, you're screwed. So there's really, like, let's stop acting like nothing matters, because that's just not true, and it's actually extremely irresponsible, and you're really not servicing yourself by acting like that. You're really not benefiting yourself, and you're not benefiting anybody around you. It doesn't help to be like, fuck everything. Like, that's cute maybe when you're a teenager and you have the right to be, like, bratty, but once you're out of that phase, you've got to, like, let's go. Let's get it together. Everybody knows that everything does matter and everything does affect other people. And we do have a responsibility to make sure that our energy is okay, so that we can take care of other people, so that we can take care of ourselves, so that things can be fine. We just all want to be okay. I just want to feel okay. I just want people around me to feel okay, so that we can, like, make it through, so that we can survive, and then maybe we can get past the point of survival and we can actually live a joyful, happy, meaningful life. And we can contribute to each other and uplift each other. We can create communities and we can support each other. Wouldn't that be amazing? And it's not that far off. It's not impossible, but it feels so impossible because we're so overwhelmed. And because we are overwhelmed by energy that is extremely imbalanced, which is why when we talk about death and we talk about darkness, we have this gut reaction that is very, like, because we've only experienced death and we've only experienced darkness in the most traumatizing way. We've only experienced it through the lens of suffering. We haven't experienced it through the opposite, or through the another aspect of divine feminine energy, which is through pleasure, which is through rest, which is through transformation and rejuvenation. Part of death is the cycle of transformation. Part of death is the cycle of rest, of getting to begin again. Death is all about new beginnings. Death is about ending cycles and changing. It's one of the most magnificent energies that we can experience, and we experience it so intimately here on Earth. But we experience it in a way that is really unbalanced, because we have people delivering out death energy and darkness in a way that is a non-consensual, and in a way that is heavily steeped in the in just heavily steeped in suffering. And I know that, everything exists, and technically there is no, but, there is good and bad. Or there is good and bad. We can't say that there's no good and bad, because then why would bad exist? Like, the term itself exists because it's defining something that exists, and it exists in that frame. It exists in that way, and it's bad. It doesn't mean that, it doesn't take away from the fact that it exists. It's just, it is what it is, but it doesn't mean it's not bad. So we've been experiencing an aspect of death and darkness that really sucks. And so it's hard to want to embrace this energy in a way that holds space. But ultimately, it's not about holding space for darkness and death to come in and overwhelm us and ruin our lives and bring us more trauma and bring us more grief and suffering and loss. It's actually welcoming death in a way that will allow us to finally breathe out. I feel like we've continuously been taking this deep breath in, and it is getting to the point where it's like you're suffocating because you're not allowing yourself to breathe out. You're not allowing yourself to release. You're just holding on to everything for dear life, because it is so scary to imagine what it is like to let go. And I mean, it's the same way that people, I guess, like minimalists talk about, why it's important to kind of go through and clear things out. It's the same thing with energy, when you're, at least for me and from what I've seen, when you're extremely depressed or when you're really stressed out and you're just overwhelmed and your place is a mess and you have a lot of things and everything is really cluttered, that's about energy as well. Because there is a certain comfort to having all of those things around, as much as it is suffocating. It's like, okay, well, at least I have things in my space. And you just get comfortable in that congested feeling, and it kind of mimics how it is to just exist on Earth. We are extremely close to all of these energies with no space for expansion, no space to breathe out and release. And it's not really our fault, because it's just the world that we've inherited. And when all of these things are being created, it's not like it was created with the sole intention to cause people suffering and to create mass consumption, overconsumption, and all of these things. That wasn't the inherent, intention. It's just part of what happened. And it happened because as we were creating all of these things and consumerism was growing and all of these things, we also weren't being taken care of, by the people in power. And so nobody was thinking about, okay, well, how do we make sure that as we are creating these factories and as we are expanding and even, exploring other regions of the world, how do we make sure that we take care of people and make sure that people are okay? How do we make sure that we prioritize humanity over greed, There were people who were not asking those questions, and the people who were not asking those questions also happened to be the people in power. And, I think it was my sister who constantly shares this saying. I don't remember where she heard it. I think it was Twitter. But somebody said that the world is run by traumatized people, and it's absolutely true. And when you're at that level of power, I'm not sure if you're always doing all the work that you need to do to work through all the trauma that you have to not bring that into the next lifetime. So then you have all this shit and you're passing it down through your family. So it's generational at this point. And then your family's engaging with other people and traumatizing other people. And it's just like, and it just happens. And then all of us who are not in those positions of power look at that and we're like, oh, you're traumatized. Okay, well, yeah, I would love to hold space for you, but I'm tired and I'm traumatized. And on top of that, I don't have money. So I don't get to go to a therapist and try and work this out. And, I don't have the space to sit with myself and reflect and journal. And it's just like everybody's frustrated, everybody's tired, everybody's pissed off. And I get it. But at this point, We can acknowledge that all of this is happening and it fucking sucks and we're tired and we just want things to be easy and we just want to break. But we have to take control of our future and of our lives. If we want things to be different, we have to do something different. And it doesn't need to be this huge, uproar movement. We're going to blah, 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 blah. It can literally just be you beginning to follow your dreams one step at a time. Just doing something that you love. You don't need to spend any money. If your dream, it doesn't even need to be a big dream. It's just giving back to that like inner child by giving to yourself joy and excitement, playing, having celebrations, experiencing pleasure just for the sake of experiencing pleasure. We need that energy desperately. It's actually like it's life-saving. It's life-saving, and it will put us into an energy where we can be prepared to have these bigger conversations because we are not so overwhelmed by sadness and depression and anxiety and stress that we can't even, I can't even begin to tackle this conversation about this huge issue because I'm just dealing with all of this in my, immediate surroundings. But if we are expressing ourselves, if we are stepping into creativity and playing, if we are creating art, if we're sharing with others, if we're sharing our opinions and our perspectives, if we're being open-minded, then we're slowly starting to engage with this energy and work through it so that we can become open to having these bigger conversations and we can create space for that. And it doesn't take as much work as it seems like, Sometimes it's just as simple as, for me, it's just as simple as my dance times. I like to dance. I just dance around my apartment, around my dad's space. I just dance in the living room. I sing out loud. I write on the train. I daydream. I go on walks. I get myself Starbucks. It's literally things like that. We need to stop depriving ourselves of joy. And it's masturbation, it's hanging out with your friends, it's watching a YouTube video that makes you laugh, it's not going on Twitter and reading about the war, it's not talking about that. It's going and doing things that are exciting and make you feel like a kid again. That energy is important. Don't let anybody tell you that energy is naive and irresponsible. If anything, that is like literally one of the most radical things you could be doing right now is like playing. Is playing for the sake of playing. I'm telling you, because the people who are having joyful experiences consistently and not depriving themselves of happiness are the people who are living the lives that we're like, oh my God, like, I wish I could, I just want to be like, and what they're doing is they're just playing. And then you see the way that the energy in their life begins to change. And you suddenly begin to attract more energy that matches that level of joy and happiness. More of that begins to come in. It's manifestation. It's aligning with the life that you desire. And it doesn't need to be these big moves. You don't need to move to Bali. You don't need to move to Tulum and blah, blah, blah. If you can, and if that's what you want to do, then you can do that. But it's just about giving yourself joy. And while a lot of us say, well, I don't have the time, that's not true. And I think that a lot of us know that. There's all the excuses in the world to not give yourself a break. There's all the excuses in the world. I'm not saying quit your job and, go and hike up the tallest mountain and camp in the wilderness, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying to, like, go on a walk. I'm just saying to have an evening where you're painting. I'm just saying have some time to be creative. I'm just saying go to sleep instead of scrolling on your thing. And yeah, that takes a lot of work. That takes effort. At first, getting into a place where you feel comfortable enough to just let go and play and let loose, that's hard. So I'm not going to diminish that because I know it's really difficult. You feel all of this guilt. You feel all of this shame. You feel like you should be doing all of this other stuff. You want to work on this. You want to be building up this. You want to be making money. You want to, I know. I get it. But this is about doing something for yourself so that you can save yourself, so that you can save the world. Like, it really is, like, we just need to all be doing our part, and it's just a matter of doing something for yourself, loving yourself enough to know that you deserve to be happy. And even if it's just a small moment of happiness, it begins to spiral. All of that will begin to extend into everything. But you have to create, you have to just take that first step. You just have to do something for yourself. You just need to seek out joy. You need to love yourself enough to have a good time. And sometimes it is the big thing. Sometimes it's loving yourself enough to leave that relationship. Sometimes it's loving yourself enough to find new friends or to go out and make friends for the first time. Sometimes it's loving yourself enough to not be an asshole, to not, take everything out on everybody around you because you're annoyed and you're upset. Sometimes it's loving yourself enough to have boundaries. Sometimes it's loving yourself enough to let yourself eat that thing that you feel all of this shame about. Sometimes it's loving yourself enough to not eat those things. Sometimes it's loving yourself enough to go dancing with your friends and go work out and go do things that make you feel good. But sometimes, at the beginning you don't want to do it, but then you do it and you realize you're having such a great time. Sometimes it's loving yourself enough to just go to sleep and rest and not force yourself to work out and not force yourself to do all of these things and be productive. You know what I mean? It's doing what you need. It's listening to your body and listening to yourself. In order to do that, you have to be present. In order to be present, you have to want to be present. In order to want to be present, you need to have an environment around you and a space around you and people around you and energy around you that makes you want to be alive. Because a lot of us are like walking zombies, just completely disconnected, completely out of our bodies, all in our heads, or so in your body, but then you're just mentally gone. And so you're just like, ugh. Or you're just working, and it's just like, you're not even there. And I've been there. I mean, I was like that for most of my life. And I'm not the most depressed person ever. Like, throughout my life, I experienced, I feel like, depression in a way that was highly, what's it called? Like, high functioning. Like, I think most people, I didn't really realize I was depressed. I didn't realize I was disassociating most of the time. I really thought I was just like chilling. I was just like, I'm just doing, but I was gone. I was not present. I was not in my life. I was not in my body. I was in relationships that made no sense. I was consistently re-traumatizing myself because I just wasn't there. And that's what's happening to a lot of us. And a lot of us are experiencing violence consistently. A lot of us are experiencing life at a level that is a lot of us are survivors. Whether you're comfortable with that term or maybe another term, the way that we engage with the world right now is like extremely non-consensual. There's so many things that I did not give permission to that I experience on a daily basis. And that's not just the way things are. That's because of the systems that we have that don't care about consent. There's a reason why it's always yes, 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 yes. And there's all of this stigma around the word no. And it's like, no is like an evil word. And like, stop saying no, say yes to yourself. Like, no is important. No exists for a reason. And it's not just in the context of sexual violence where it's like, no, consent comes first. No is important. Just as a being, the ability to put up boundaries and say no is powerful. And we need to embrace the word no. The year of no. Let's talk about the year of no. The year of the opposite of all of these things that we've prioritized. Life and light life and light in comparison to darkness and death. We prioritize life. Except we're not really even engaged with life in the way that we should be or in the way that we want to be. And lightness is so superficial at this point. We don't even really have an understanding of what that means. But it's always light. Push out the darkness. Push out death. Push out the evil. Push out the heaviness. All of these things that we give all of these negative connotations to because we've only experienced them within the context of trauma and suffering. But all of these things also have so much to offer. And it's not to say that I love life and I love light energy and all of that, all of it that embodies that. But it's way too much pressure on it right now. There's way too much pressure on life and light and all of these types of energies, and like even like optimism and positivity, all of those energies, there's way too much pressure on it. There's way too much pressure to like fully get us through, and we're clinging on to it for dear life and really running away from everything else that is not, it's like right behind us. Like it's not like it's we can't escape it, you know. It is a part of us. And so I was talking about in that previous video, there's all this pressure on life and light to be like our guiding light, like the light at the end of the tunnel, the gold pot at the end of the rainbow, like all of these things are like our one, it's like how we are surviving. It's like we're salivating over it, and it's the one thing that is getting us through. And that's extremely it's a lot of high stress, a lot of high pressure, and it makes you think of like being in a relationship with somebody who doesn't have any friends, and being in a relationship with somebody who is suffering and doesn't have any friends. And so you are the one person for them. You are the reason that they are alive. Like you help them get through everything, and it's way too much pressure on you. But then it's also all of this guilt around wanting to say no, because it's like, how do you say no to something you love? Or how can you not want to support somebody? You know what I mean? It's that same energy. And this is the reason why it's important to acknowledge that everything is conscious and everything is aware, even in a way that you don't understand, because even concepts have consciousness. So light and life as concepts that exist in the world, as really heavy, really like foundational concepts that exist for human beings and for earth beings. I know I'm starting to get very, but for earth beings and for just the universe, life and light are very foundational concepts with a lot of energy attached to them, and a lot of pressure attached to them. And it's completely imbalanced, right? They don't get a break. Like, we are all like clinging on to them for dear life. For dear life. And meanwhile, we look at darkness and death and heaviness, and we look at those energies as, horrible and innately wrong and bad and something we need to get away from. And of course, all of these aspects exist within them. Within the conversation around death and darkness, there is depression, there is sadness, there is grief, there is loss. That is a part of death. A part of darkness is heaviness that is that feels like a burden. There is baggage, there is weight that feels overwhelming. But there is also rest, there's also rejuvenation, there's also rebirth, there's also transformation, there's also rediscovery, the creation. All of that happens within the death state. There's also new beginnings, new possibilities. There's endless space to imagine, there's imagination. All of that also exists. Within darkness, so you can imagine without having to fully see what it is. You have to feel. You have to be fully present. You have to be aware in a different way. You're exercising different parts of your humanity. You're exercising different parts of being when you're in a death state and in a darkness state. When you're at rock bottom, you find a way. You begin to discover things about yourself that you didn't even know existed. When you're in a dark phase, you begin to really see the world in a different way. And yes, it can be traumatizing sometimes, but some people will also tell you that hitting rock bottom was what changed their life for the better. Sometimes you have to go through that. It's necessary. It's important. And there's another side to it. It's not all trauma, but we are experiencing it so heavily on the traumatic side that it's like, you feel like you're drowning. And then you're trying to cling on to life, but life's drowning too, because the pressure is real. And your shadow is out here carrying all this shit for you. And it's like, bitch, I need a break. But you're like, I need a break. Everybody's tired. So then why don't we just let go and give ourselves a break and give ourselves rest? Well, because the unknown is terrifying. So to actually tell everyone to slow down and maybe just stop and get into stillness, and whatever that can look like for you, well, that's scary because I don't know what life is like once I stop. I don't know what life is like once I stop thinking about this and stop creating and stop expanding. And so we are just constantly attached to movement. Even the idea of movement. Movement is not just, we don't need to understand it just in the framework that we understand it in this current world. Like I'm thinking about colonialism, right? And expansion and going and discovering new parts of the world and going and blah, 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 blah. Like that, you could look at that as exploration, right? And you can look at that as going and meeting new cultures and going and discovering the world and being adventurous. But then you can also see it as, the horrible side of colonialism, which is then you're creating genocide against people and erasing all of these cultures and, displacing people and blah, blah, blah. And because there's no boundaries, there's no limits, there's no awareness, you're not really present and understanding how can I take care of these people as I'm also exploring and expanding. I'm just here, causing chaos and not following my tracks and not giving a fuck because, I'm just operating completely disconnected. I'm either operating just from my mind and, it's logical to want to go and expand and see what else is out there, blah, 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 or I'm just operating in my body. And so I'm pillaging these villages and I'm destroying the earth and I'm digging and what is that thing? Fracking. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're just doing all of these things and you're not even thinking. You're not thinking and you're not feeling. And so you're just not there. You're just not present. And it's all too much. But it's so scary to try something new. And what would be new would be to welcome in death and welcome in darkness in terms of the unknown and an energy that we just don't know what that's like, right? Because we understand death within the context of life. Right? We always say death and then we add on the rebirth because we're like, yeah, but we're always going to head back into life. But what is it like to stay in that death state? To stay in the darkness, right? And live within that. Because death is not, there's not just nothing happening within death, right? Things are happening. I made a video about, it was like a metaphor that the universe just put right on my, balcony. There's a snail and I think it had passed away, and in its death state it was still moving. It was like curling and then it uncurled. Shit was happening, right? So it was gone. It wasn't alive anymore, but life was still existing within death. Movement was still existing within death. It's about expanding our understanding and understanding that things are not so limited as to believe that, within the death state, there's just nothing. We don't even know what nothing looks like. We don't know what's happening within nothingness. But for anything to have been created, there had to be nothing, right? So inherently within nothingness, there is life. There is creation. Inherently within death, there is creation. We all know this, or else there wouldn't be a possibility for rebirth. And we've all experienced rebirth consistently throughout our lives. We go through death and rebirth states, cycles, all the time as human beings. That's something we know very intimately. That's why it's so special to be here on Earth and to be human, because you get to understand these concepts in a very intimate way. But it's also scary because change is scary and embracing the unknown is scary. But we're already there, right? We're already here. Like, we all watch shows about the apocalypse and all of these things. We're in that now. We're in that now, and it's not looking like the TV shows where it's like a barren wasteland and, we're all in our like camouflage clothes and trekking through the deserts and trying to, like, some of us are just in cities functioning still, but the world is still, it's still dying, and things are still changing on a fundamental level. Our realities are going to be changing a lot over the next few decades. And for the children and the next few generations, their lives are going to be, we're not even going to be able to imagine, what their lives will be like. And we need to prepare a world for them and prepare a world not just physically, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally. If you're not a religious or a spiritual person, just emotionally, we need to prepare a world for them that can take care of them, right? Where we can take care of each other. We don't take care of each other right now. We just kind of are everybody for themselves. And it's because we also don't take care of ourselves, because we don't have the space, we don't have the time, we don't have the energy. Nobody loves themselves. And it's because we don't have a society that loves us. Like, we're all traumatized, and it's starting from childhood, and so you're just kind of like, and you're barely functioning. And a lot of us are trying to fix it now in our adulthood, but it's like, you know, so I get it. I'm not judging anybody because I get it. I'm tired too. But it doesn't mean that we just give up. Like, you can't give up. And it doesn't benefit anybody to give up, because like I said, reincarnation is real. Sorry. Like, you're not just dying and then just staying dead, So you're coming back, and maybe you're not coming back to Earth, but you're going somewhere and you're still carrying all that shit, all that trauma. You're going to have to deal with it somehow. So why don't we just start working through it now? Why don't we just start dealing with it now? Like, it's just such a disservice to act like none of this is real. At this point, it's such a disservice, because it's like, who are you helping? Not yourself. You're not helping yourself. So who are you helping? I don't know why I'm yelling. I have like a cold, like, it's just a lot. And I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life. So, I don't know what's going on. I'm just getting messages, and then I just say them. And that's just what it is at this point. But like I said, I have a lot of hope. Yeah, and like I was saying, it's scary to look into experiencing aliveness in a different type of way, right? Nobody knows what it's like to be in a death state. And like I was saying, as above, so below. So what we're going through here on Earth is a mirror for what's happening on a universal level. What we're experiencing on Earth, and the reactions that we have, and what choices we choose to make over the next few decades and perhaps centuries, is hugely significant to what's going to happen for the rest of the universe. Because we're not the only ones that are tired. We're not the only ones that are experiencing energy at this level. It's a lot of energy to be engaging with. They constantly say that energy can't die, energy, can't die or be created, something like that. I don't know. Maybe energy can be created, but it can't die. I don't know what they say. They say something like that. And so we've been operating from that mindset, right? But everything is a manifestation. Everything is just a thought. Everything is just an idea. Nothing is, like, for sure. You know what I mean? Like, obviously there's things that are for sure for us, like gravity, like the sun being the center of our galaxy, like us needing air to breathe. All of that is for sure for us right now, and forever. I don't know. I'm not getting into science stuff. I believe in science. I'm not, But what I'm saying is that everything is a concept at the end of the day. And then some of those concepts stick, and they become the foundation for our understandings of what it means to exist, and some don't. So the concept of energy not being able to die or not being able to be created, I don't know how it goes, I'm sorry, but that concept is something that's really stuck, right? Same with the concept of life, same with the concept of death, same with the concept of darkness and light, like good and bad, right and wrong, those types of things, duality, those have stuck, right? We're starting to expand beyond the binary now with gender, and I'm sure we'll begin to expand everything as time goes on. But those have kind of been pillars for us. And it's been really helpful in helping us build up like a framework for understanding the way that things can work and, living in this world, but it's also been limiting in certain aspects in terms of being open to the possibility of what else could exist, what else could happen. And I'm saying all of this because, like I said, it's very hard to be alive right now, whether you're a soul or whether you are here incarnating here on earth or anywhere else. I don't know. It's hard because there is just a lot is happening. And on top of all of the energy that we are engaging with in this life, we have some past life shit that's just like there, and like some people address it and know about it, some people don't, and like we have certain patterns, family things, ancestral stuff, like just a lot that we're dealing with, and we're not allowed to get rid of any of it. And it's like, oh well, you can transmute it, you can turn that energy into light, right? But even that is just kind of like, okay, but like then it's like it's just everything is unbalanced. And who is to say that what we need is an abundance of light and an abundance of life? Because did that not get us to the point where we're at right now? You know, the universe is always expanding, constantly breathing, like in, you know, and trudging forward, constantly in life. And we have not allowed ourselves on a universal level to stop. What does it look like to stop expanding as a universe, right? Like, what does it look like to ask God to, like, stop creating? Like, that's the state that we need to kind of be in right now. Like, let's stop. Let's stop. Let's stop creating in terms of life. Like, let's stop expanding. Let's stop. Because why don't we look at what it would look like to maybe go into this death state energy, you know? Death might literally be the same as life, but just with a little bit of a different vibe to it. I was thinking about it earlier today because I was closing my eyes, and when I close my eyes in the light, sometimes when I'm closing my eyes and there's light, I see this figure, and it's just mostly like a blob, but it's like a light blob, but in the light it's a shadow. And then when I cover my eyes so that there's no more light and I see the figure again, it's a light. It's light. It's like a figure of light. But when my eyes are closed but there's light around, it's a figure of a shadow. You know what I mean? So it might be the same thing. But the point is that we don't allow ourselves to go into it. We don't allow ourselves to experience the dark version of it, the shadow version, or the death version of life. You know, just going into the opposite and imagining what that would be like. It's just like taking in a deep breath and being too scared to breathe out because you don't know what that's going to be like again. But that's just the experience of existing. It's just like reincarnation. You live, you die, and then it's like the first person who ever reincarnated. It was like, okay, you're living life, then you die, and then it's like, oh, you're back in life again. But it was like, you wouldn't have known that if you didn't allow yourself to die, you know? And I mean, who knows whether it's the chicken or the egg? Did you die first or were you living first? I don't know. The point is that we're mirrors of each other. So what's happening here on Earth is also a reflection of what's happening in the greater context. I don't know if I'm getting it fully correct. I'm probably not. But the point is that we need to stop. We need to stop. And we need to explore death a little bit more. And we need to explore the idea of not expanding. And actually, instead of like going outward, let's go inward. Let's really dive deep into what already exists here and explore that, right? Because there's just so much around us. In the context of the universe, there's so much to be explored. But instead, we're like constantly searching for something else, constantly searching for more. It's just like how people get pissed when they're like, "Oh, we're going to look for a new planet." Like, what the fuck? Like, Earth doesn't mean anything. We have so much here. There's so much here. Like, we're not just throwing out everything that we have just because we fucked up, you know? And that's how it feels, and there's just a need to stop. If you stopped and you reconnected with yourself and you became present in your reality, then you could look around and maybe it wouldn't be too overwhelming. Okay, and now we can be creating a plan. We can create a plan for how we can deal with all of this stuff. We can start to address it. But because we're so overwhelmed and we're so scared, we're just like, nope, fuck it, I'm just gonna leave. And it's just like, And like, so if you're not going to do anything differently, then do we think on these new planets that we're just going to magically find that, first of all, no one's going to be there, and that we're not going to fall into the same habits? Because we're just running away from our problems, as if your shadow doesn't follow you, as if your baggage just isn't going to come with you. Bitch, like, yeah. Anyways. And it's like we predict this, right? Because we've all seen, I love sci-fi. I love science fiction and those types of shows, and we've all seen apocalyptic shows, we've all seen the sci-fi shows. We all know what would happen. We all already know. Human beings are so psychic. It's a highly psychic space, a highly psychic experience to be alive on Earth. And like I said, highly telepathic and energetic. And so we already know what's going to happen. So it's just really a matter of us not, like, ignoring the truth. Yeah, and we need to be the deliverers of our own justice. Nobody is coming down here to save us. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of, like, some crazy, powerful figure coming in and being like, okay, kids, like, I'm gonna rescue you. That's not, I don't think that that's happening in the way that we think it's going to happen, that some people think it's going to happen. I don't think so. I don't even think we're gonna get the easy way out with, like, a nice, like, big flood or fire. No, I don't think the apocalypse is gonna be like, I'm telling you, we're already in the apocalypse. I was having this conversation with my sister. So it's not gonna be like, you know, there's a fire burning through the world for a few days and then everything's done. Nuh-uh. Like, this shit is we're gonna be living through it. We are in the death state. Death is not, it's not like nothing is happening within death. We're in the death state already. The earth is dying, okay? And she will be born again. So, like, let's breathe, calm down. But the earth is dying. So we're already in that shit. And we don't all just get to, like, have a quick death and then, like, nothing's happening. Like, you know what I mean? We're gonna live through it. We're gonna be in it. So we need to stop acting like nothing matters. And, like, you know, we can just kind of, like, fool around. Like, that's an illusion. The idea of some, like, nice little quick ending is an illusion. I don't even think we're gonna all go by nuclear war. I'm sure we'd all love to at this point, but absolutely not. That's not how it's gonna happen. We're gonna have to deal with it. We're gonna have to literally deal with our shit. And that's scarier. That's scarier, but that's what's about to happen. We're not dying by nuclear war. I'm telling you, if that's how we end up going, then I'll eat my words, but I doubt it. I doubt it. We're gonna have to literally just deal with our shit. And that's more frustrating for a lot of us, because that's a lot more work than a quick little nuclear bomb. Not to diminish nuclear explosions, but you know what I mean? It would be an easier way to get out of this whole experience. Oh, what? Humanity just gets blown up and then you never exist again? Yeah, right. When has life ever been that easy? Like, let's just not be, like, it's just like we're ignoring, like, the facts. Like, give an example in your life where it's ever been that easy, where that's how you get out of a problem. No, like, never. That's never how it happens. You always have to literally go through it, and you have to learn your lesson, and you have to come up with a plan, and you have to grow up, and you have to deal with it. The point of this whole thing, I'm yelling just because I'm feeling passionate, but I'm not yelling at you to be aggressive or to be mean, because I really do care. I really do love human beings. I really love our earth. I really love life, and I really have such an appreciation for everything that exists. Just because it's amazing that we're all doing this. I have such an appreciation for anybody who's existing at all, because it's not easy. I have an appreciation for the people who feel like they can't do it, because it's not easy being here. That's why you really need to be kind to people, because it's like, we all know that it is so hard, and that we're so exhausted, and that we're all depressed, and we're all dealing with shit. So to treat somebody like shit because they're not handling this earth experience well is like, it makes no sense, because it's like, of course they're not. Like, I'm not handling it well, but some of us just function differently, you know? So this is not me trying to be an asshole. Not at all. I don't critique anybody for not wanting to deal with this, because I get it. this is just really me. I'm saying it like this, and I'm trying to say it as much as I can, because I really do love people, and I really want us to have a better life. And I really believe that everybody deserves to be happy, and everybody deserves to feel fulfilled, and everybody deserves joy and pleasure, and everybody deserves to follow their dreams, whatever that means to you. Your dreams could be wanting to have a family, your dreams could be wanting to play baseball, your dreams could be wanting to be a yoga teacher, be a spiritual teacher. It doesn't even need to be spirituality. It doesn't need to be connected to that at all. I was saying in another video, I would love to expand our idea of spirituality to get out of the more like woo-woo, stuff. And if that's what you're interested in, then that's what you're interested in. But it's really just like another word for being alive, because we all have spirits, and it doesn't need to be in the religious context. You don't need to talk to a god. You don't need to talk to angels or your ancestors or the universe. You could just like your family, and that's it, or your friends. I don't know. But the point is that it's just about being connected to yourself and being grounded in this world and being present enough to live life and to realize that you have dreams that you deserve to follow, and that you deserve to be happy, you deserve to be loved, you deserve to be seen and heard and felt, and that those are all things that are just like your innate right, and you don't have to prove that you deserve that, and nobody can take that away from you. That's just it. And it's just because so many of us really have been unloved and are very lonely and are very isolated, and it's so unfair. And yeah, but anyways, I feel like I've gotten it out for today. I hope that this was enough. And I'll probably be back saying the same thing in another video. So thanks for listening, if you are listening, and I do hope that this helps in some way. If anything, maybe it'll just be entertainment for you, which is good enough for me. Maybe it'll just spark a conversation. Maybe you'll disagree with everything I'm saying and think I'm ridiculous, and that's fine too, because at least then we're like talking to each other, right? And at least we're having a conversation about something new and something else, and then I'm hearing your opinions, and then I can grow from there and learn something new. Let's just at least leave the space to have a discussion, because we can't get anywhere if we're not even talking about what's going on, right? So, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go, and have a good whatever day, night, evening, afternoon. I have a cold. Okay, bye.